Hello and welcome again to another session of the data governance integration into One Identity Manager. As you probably know, normally I'm talking with Matthew Moose about data governance. Today, Matthew is not in the office, so I have to use another bit of technology we are working on, and I try to establish now a mental connection to Matthew Moose. Matt, what will we see in this session?
In this video, we're going to be talking about governed data. So DGE basically is Data Governance Edition. So we have to talk about what that means within the product. So assigning owners to resources, publishing resources to the IT shop, as well as the business owner view in the web portal and what they can see with the data that's been sent from data governance into the One Identity Manager database.
Thank you, Matt. That sounds wonderful. Let's start with that and show something.
The concept of governed data is one that we've introduced in data governance for the purposes of specifying resources that are critical to the business. They're resources that are shared within your network that employees have access to, that require deeper inspection, more control, whatever you want to call it. So we call it governed data. That's the term we use. Or you'll also hear interchangeably data under governance. Sometimes you'll hear DUG, which stands for data under governance, or QAM-DUG, which again, the QAM acronym stands for Quest Access Manager, so QAM-DUG. So these are all interchangeable phrases for the same topic, which is governed data. So again, governed data is a subset of the resources that exist on a file system or on a SharePoint site that you need more control over. So within the manager, the way you can govern data, there's a few different ways, but one way that I'll show you is directly from a resource browser. So here I am, I'm going to go to this machine, MMDIM 702. Here we go here, and I have the sister stuff share visible right here. So again, this is the example I've been using in these videos. Is I have a share called sister stuff that both of my sisters, Pam and Jen, have access to, and they've been using, and we are collecting activity on this share, so we can use that activity to hopefully calculate who the perceived owner should be. So if I go calculate perceived owners, and here we go, finding perceived owners. And then you get a list of potential business owners based on the activity that's being collected. So here you can see P. Green, who's Pam Green. She's 33.77% likely to be the owner. J. Gillis is 25.97% to be the owner. The employees are Pam and Jen right here. You can also see the administrator has been doing things, setting security, moving some things around, deleting. We suggest potentially Clarence Muse is the owner. Clarence Muse is associated with that administrator account. For this environment, it's a small environment. There's only been a few activities, but here I know, looking at this as a data governance administrator, that I think Pam Green should be the owner of this, right? Because she's been using it more than Jennifer, and just maybe some other knowledge that I have leads me to believe that it should be Pam, right? Based on her role or whatever. Now, right here, I could actually set the owner to be Pam of that share. And by setting an owner, by definition, that resource becomes governed. It becomes a governed entity within One Identity Manager, right? Now, I'm not going to set that here. I can do it later, but I just want to show you the different options that you have available to you to set owners, to just govern resources without an owner. Nothing stops you from doing that. Or to publish a resource to the IT shop so that other people can request access to those resources. And by publishing to the IT shop, by definition, a resource automatically becomes governed. So I'm not going to set the owner here. I just want to show you the different places where you can do this. So in the resource browser, with a specific resource selected, I then have some task options here. So calculate perceived owner, we already did. We have a place resource under governance task here, right? So if you click on that, It then says, would you like to place the selected resource under governance? You can change the display name if you want to something other than the name of the share. I'm not going to touch that. And then this checkbox here, use backing folder security for self-service. So if I were to publish this resource to the IT shop, when DGE looks at the security that can provide access to that share, by selecting this, it's not going to look at the share permissions down below, which you can see right here. It'll look at the folder permissions and the security on the folder that backs the share in terms of self-service requests, right? So again, that's just one of the ways you can do it. I'm going to go back to place resource under governance. And all I need to do there is, if I don't change anything, I can click govern resources, and that'll govern that resource. I can also multi-select. So if I want to govern at the same time out of this list of shares, I can pick finance, I can pick escalation, I can pick cats. I'm very interested in cats. And then I can go place resource under governance. And the same thing. So I can place multiple resources at the same time under governance with the same options. Go cancel there. And let's go back to sister stuff here. And the next option available to you in the manager is the ability to govern by publishing to the IT shop, right? So publishing to the IT shop makes that share available in the IT shop for other employees who have access to the IT shop to request access to that share. So by publishing to the IT shop, again, same thing, same options. I can change the display name. I can use backing folder for self-service, etc. And then when I go publish resources, it automatically asks me for an owner, because we don't want to publish something to the IT shop unless it has an owner that's available to approve or deny the request, right? So here I would actually pick an employee. Again, I could scroll down and I can pick Pam Green as the owner, or I can pick Jennifer Gillis right here. No problem at all. Or I also have the option of selecting an application role. Owners of governed resources in data governance can be either individual employees or roles. So identity manager application roles. So I can set up a role with one or more employees in it, assign that role as the business owner, and then in terms of approval for self-service requests or attestations or anything, anybody who is a member of the role that's assigned to be the owner of this resource has the capabilities for approving or denying, right? So those are the ways that you can set an owner, and by setting an owner, you automatically govern. In this particular case, we're actually publishing to the IT shop. So publishing automatically indicates governing, but in order to publish, you must have an owner, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to the original way, and I'm going to calculate perceived owners again, finding perceived owners, and I've decided, yeah, it's Pam. Pam is the one who should control the sister stuff share. So right here, I'm going to go set owner, setting business owner, and now I'm going to close. And back here, now you can see there's a column here for governed resource, right in the resource browser, and that's set to true. But publish to IT shop isn't set because I did not publish that to the IT shop, right? I can do that separately. So for any resource, I can publish. Now, because it's already governed, it doesn't have to govern it again. It's just going to publish to the IT shop. I can do that right here. So I can publish to the IT shop. Again, I'm not going to change the name of what I'm publishing here. I'm going to keep it. And I am going to use backing folder security for self-service. So publish resources. And now the resource is both published to the IT shop, and by definition, it's governed. If anything is published, it has to be governed. There's no other way to do it. So now we have a resource that's been published to the IT shop. It has an owner, and we can see that now in this view over here. We have this govern data menu high-level option here, right? I click on govern data. For all governed data across all of your managed hosts, you'll see all of them here, sorted by host name, right? So we have a default sorting, which is host name. So here we see two items. Now, I didn't have anything governed before, so why all of a sudden are there 2 items here in the governed data list? The reason we do that is because when we govern a share, we automatically govern the backing folder. So here you can see that I have governed the share, and you see the underlying folder, the C $ data shares sister stuff folder that share represents. And you can see it's of type NTFS folder, right? So they are both governed. Well, just the share, is published to the IT shop, because we're not publishing the folder, we're publishing the share. In this particular case, now I don't have DFS here yet, but when I have DFS, it'll be DFS that's published. But in this case, I have a share on a server, and that's published to the IT shop, right? So that means that because it's published, anybody can go in who has access to the IT shop, and they can see that share in the IT shop. So now that we have a published governed resource, I want to go to the web portal to show you where all this comes into play. So here we have the web portal. I'm logged in as Pam Green here, who is the owner of this resource. And now you can see under My Responsibilities, File System Resources. Click on that. And if somebody doesn't own resources, they won't see this File System Resources. This only shows up if you're logged into somebody who's an owner of governed data. And again, either you're a direct owner as an employee, or you're in a role that is set as the owner. So here you can see that now under File System Resources, I own the sister stuff share. Well, Pam owns the sister stuff share. So clicking on that, and then if you have multiple resources, they'll show in a list. And then here you go. You have an overview of your resource, right? So the owner is Pam Green, etc. There's some other information that's going to be calculated in the background. It might not be showing up here right now, but it will be. Some master details of the resource that you own, when it was set to be owner, if there's any justification or comments right there, they would show up right there, etc. Recent activity. As an owner, I can actually see a bubbled up view of the resource activity that was collected by the DGE agents, stored in the DGE activity database, and then for governed data, that activity gets synchronized once again into the One Identity Manager database for governed data. So DGE activity that's collected by the agents, all of it is stored in the DGE activity database, but for governed data, we take that data from the DGE activity database and store it into the QAM tables in the One Identity Manager database. So here you can see this bubble up view of the recent activity. Now I'll just quickly go through some of these tabs. Access, that'll show you who has access. Risk, if there's risk calculation taking place, you can see information there. Usage, I'll skip. Reports, we have some out-of-the-box reports that are context sensitive to the resource that you're looking on. So again, I had talked about how for access reports on a resource basis must be targeted towards governed data in the web portal, right? Because you aren't able to just select any resource and run it. So here we have a context sensitive report for file system resource access report, which when generated will send the owner an email with the report showing that owner who has access. Same with resource activity. So I can actually generate that resource activity report right here, context sensitive to the resource that I have selected right now. And again, that report will be emailed to the owner. It's not something that's just going to show up right here in the web portal. It's a generate report that just gets scheduled, executed, and then emailed to the employee. And then history, it'll show you the complete history of your governed resource if you have history enabled. And attestation, if you have any scheduled attestations that you're responsible for, they'll show up right there. So there you go. This is the business owner view of the data, right? Now, before I go to the IT shop, I want to show you one last thing. I can set a restriction list here so that only people in specific departments, locations, cost centers, business roles, or one identity manager application roles even have the capability to see those resources in the IT shop. So by default, if I publish a resource, it's open. Anybody who has access to the IT shop can then request access to it. But I can restrict that by assigning a restriction list right here. So if I click on departments, I actually want to say only those who have a department set to be Muse family. And go OK. So with this resource actually published to the IT shop, I can actually log in. So I'm going to log out as Pam. And I'm going to log in as myself. And it opens up automatically. Here we can see the service catalog. I'm going to click on resource access. And we have three options here: file system access, new file system share, and SharePoint access. We'll talk about new file system share in another training video. File system access, I'll go request. And you can see there's my sister stuff right there. So publishing to the IT shop allows somebody to actually go to the IT shop, request access to a share that's been published, and the final step here is I request a specific type of access, request read or request write access, and why, right? And then check and submit shopping cart. So we'll talk about the customization of the IT shop for published resources in another video again, and we'll talk about that new share request that's creating resources in the IT shop. But this is a good overview of owning data, publishing data, and then what you can see as a business owner of data in the web portal, which will be your primary entry into this whole governed data view.